could build a new life if you weren't so damn overprotective. And if you think my lifestyle of sleeping with a woman is gonna corrupt Micah, you're just hateful.
Well, welcome back to A Seat at the Table. We're now joined by Ms. Emma Foulkes. She's a financial planner, compliance officer, and an entrepreneur. In 2017, she was named Atlanta Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce's Businesswoman of the Year. Thank you so much, Emma, for joining us at A Seat at the Table. I got to ask you, you've got a 25-year-old son. When did you let him know you were a lesbian, and how did you deal with it?
Well, I talked to him. There was a point in my life I had come out of a relationship, and a long-term relationship, and I started dating both men and women. And once I realized that I was going to be open to being in a relationship with either a man or woman, I thought it was fair to tell him. You know, it's better to tell someone something instead of them.
How old was he?
He was in middle school, so I don't really remember. It was
Hormone Hotel.
Yeah, it was that weird pre-teeny age, right. The Axe body spray age. So that's how I identified. But, you know, I told him that I dated both, that I was bisexual, and asked him if he understood what that meant, and, you know, of course he did, and asked him about his values or his opinion on it, because I did have him in a Christian private school. And I wanted to know how he felt, and he told me how he felt, and the conversation went from, you know, it really turned into him being concerned about my safety, and then him wanting to be my protector. So it was a very weird and fun conversation.
That's beautiful. And you know, it's funny how we get into these spaces where we try to anticipate how our family will respond to it, and you just never can be sure how they're going to respond to it. I think it's beautiful that your son responded to it by thinking, hey, I need to make sure that you're okay, because I know out here
in these
people,
streets.
in these streets, people are foolish.
Right.
What I have an issue with is when parents disown their children and say things about their children, or don't want to deal with their children when they figure out or are told. There's so many tragic stories out there of parents who are perfectly loving people, but then the moment that they find out their child loves the same gender, that somehow that's a problem. Somehow that diminishes your love. And I just, as a mother who gave birth to two people and helped to raise a son who, you know, is my stepson, I can't understand for the life of me how someone can not talk to or stop loving their child because of who they choose to have sex with or love.
So how did your family react?
My family, my mother's a scientist, so she believed, you know, she told me from the time that I was little that people were different, and she was so new agey to the point where she wanted me to choose my own religion. She felt that religion should be a choice and you choose. And so I, in my mind, knew she would be okay with it. The rest of my family is very conservative. I'm of Costa Rican, Haitian, and Jamaican background, so they're very, you know, religious, very strong views. My mother was the one that I had the biggest issue with. She was very upset, and her rationale for being upset had to do with wanting more grandchildren. And so it was very selfish. It had nothing to do with who I was with. It had to do with the fact that, you know, I'm an only child. I have one son, and so she was a little upset that that was it.
And that's
that gets back to what I was talking about before, about the problem with, you've got a woman who is beautiful. She has got a great career. And your mom, as many other people would say, what are you doing? Stop it. You got to have more babies. It helps the community.
But this is the thing. You know, people trying to live vicariously through other people, give it up, man. Like, you're going to have to let people live their own lives and do what makes them happy.
How would you feel about your son being bisexual? Is your son bisexual? Oh, you want grandkids?
See?
My concern has to do with the grandbabies first. So once you know, if he has kids, you know, then after that, you do what you want. I don't care what he does. I just want him to be a good person.
He can adopt.
Like, don't get...
Thank you.
Well,
there's always
or he can do artificial insemination.
He can do whatever, but I want to help choose his wife, too.
Oh, wow.
But you said choose his wife or husband.
His mate.
His husband.
I'm talking about baby producing. So the husband part.
Ricky Martin has 2 children, even and is married to a man. I find that interesting. that you have a little pull back there.
Right.
But this goes to show that like the
biases.
response, your desire for your children is not necessarily, you know, have anything to do with them or what they really want. And I think also, you know, there are parents who are more invested in their children's happiness than in their own happiness. And I strive to be, and I have to check myself, like, okay, she may not want to go to Spelman College.
But your money's going to Spelman.
But her happiness is more important than my happiness, and I have to. And that I don't mean to belittle the subject matter, but you have to figure out a way to put your children and their happiness first. And I hope that this touches someone, because I've seen too often families broken apart because your child doesn't fit some traditional preconceived notion of what you think they should be.
I've seen young people kill themselves or go into deep depression because they've been put out of their home or because they can't be who they are. They have taken their lives. That is sinful to me.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Love your babies.
Well, speaking of, you know, the one thing we haven't hit her on, you made history.
Oh, yes.
You and your wife made history.
Yes.
The first same-sex couple to get married in the United States of America.
Yes, that's quite a mark to make when you are also professing your love.
Yes, it was. it was such an emotional time because I was the president. I'm the past president of the Atlanta Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and I did an interview. And in that interview, I made some off-kiltered comments, and I received a phone call from someone saying, "Hey, you know, were you serious about camping out on the courthouse steps to get married?" Which is what I had said, and I said, "Well, definitely." So they told me to, you know, subscribe to a text messaging service that will tell us when the Supreme Court was going to read the ruling, and if we would have to make ourselves available by a certain time and be at the Fulton County Courthouse. And so this went on for 3 weeks. And so, you know, and so there was a lot of emotion, and we kept telling our parents, we may be getting married this week, and my mother wanted to come and stay with us, and I said, no, we don't know, you can't, you know, you can't
just stay here.
You can't just stay here, so we don't know when it's going to happen, so no, don't come. And finally, the day that it did happen, I didn't think it was going to happen. I had already written it off in my mind that it wasn't happening. My wife had written it off in her mind because we'd gone through so many ups and downs of maybe it's going to happen today. And even when we were in the courts, the judge's chambers, she wanted us in the chambers. And when we read the decision, my wife and I still didn't understand the decision. We started crying. Everybody else was crying, and out of happiness, we were crying because we thought we read no.
Oh,
Wow.
And that makes you all the first same-sex couple to get married in the United States after the Supreme Court decision, and you're standing in the room crying because you think you got to know.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
When did it hit you? It was a yes.
Well, when her clerk turned around and said, "It means you can get married."
Awesome.
We kept saying, "What does this mean? What does this mean?"
It's already difficult for African Americans to survive in the workplace, and when you layer it with sexual preference, it may just leave you jobless.
We've been going through some financial issues that we couldn't have foreseen last year. And so we've had to look hard for cuts. And unfortunately, the music ministry is one of those areas.
That is unfortunate.
And since you were the last person hired in the department, well, you know the rest.
I do, actually. Quite well. May I ask you a question?
Of course.
Do you think gay marriage is wrong? Because you knew I was gay when Charity hired me, so all this has got to be about Reggie and I getting married.
Now, I'm telling you, I have seen this happen in real life, where the choir director or whomever had the job, as long as they, quote, stayed in their place, don't ask, don't tell, they were not affected in any way. But as soon as one choir director I know, as soon as it became obvious and he decided to be openly gay and said that I am gay, he lost his job. And he's not the only person I've known who suffered that way. Is that why you're in business for yourself?
Yes, I was actually one of, yes, that's a huge reason. There's a gamut of reasons, but a lot of it had to do with I made a pledge to myself. I had been blackmailed. Someone tried to hold it against me when I decided I didn't want to hold a certain position anymore and I wanted to go back into practice. They tried to blackmail me. I've had people use it. I mean, it's been a whole bunch of stuff. Wow. And I decided that at that point, that at within the next 5 years, that I would never allow someone to determine whether or not I was happy or fed my family or fed myself. And I said, you know what, I know it's gonna be tough, and that's why I love my wife so much, because she stuck, she met me and I was doing really well, and then I went through, the recession and everything else, and I told her what my vision was and why I wanted to do it. And after the second time my sexuality was used against me, I decided even if it was going to hurt me, I was going to tell the truth. And so little by little, the two of us, didn't care anymore, and we were who we were, and we introduced each other. This is my partner,
right.
And what are you going to say? She's beautiful.
Right,
Like, what can you say to me?
Right.
And even if she wasn't, what are you going to say to me?
Right.
I know there's certain laws, there's certain things, and it's one of those things where you just have to be you. And as you are comfortable with who you are, things just get better in your life. Mm-hmm. And so, having my son, having my wife, her family, my family, we're extremely lucky. Right. Very, very lucky.
Right. Well, I'm so impressed by your story. It trips me out that that we had this conversation with you and you still have some expectations for your son. That's really interesting to me. But human, right? And real. And for me, that's what this whole conversation needs to be, surrounded by. The idea that we're all humans and that we all love the way that we love. We prefer what we prefer. We do what we want to do, so long as it doesn't hurt other people. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful that we're having this conversation today.
I'm hoping that from this conversation, any young people who might see it or any parents who see it will step back from antiquated ideas and accept people for who they are. And remember, God created us all, and God never made any junk. So my feeling is relax and just love the people around you and appreciate them for who they are. Right. And let's not just get into who they sleep with, what color they are, what religion they are. Let's just accept us as we are. Judge not, lest you be judged yourself.
There you go.
I hope that your business takes off from being on this show so you can let all the haters know.
Oh, I've been doing that steadily. It's been happening. The best revenge is success. And
yes. Success speak for you.
Thank you.
Yes, I need a good financial planner, so maybe we'll talk after this, after the show. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We have to go, but the conversation doesn't end here.
Don't forget you can share your thoughts with us on social media.
We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at ASATTTV.
Thanks for joining us for a seat at the table. And in the words of Shirley Chisholm, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law. That all people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love.